Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video. Here to discuss the latest game I completed, and that game is Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. A very brief but very interesting, I guess, Metroidvania title that was part of a crowdfunding goal for the main game, which is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. I highly anticipated, and people got very excited through Kickstarter and funded that game. And one of the goals was to fund a kind of like a companion game with Curse of the Moon. And the goals were reached, the dollar amount, and therefore they released this game, which I played it on the Xbox One as part of the. I think it's not part of Game Pass, but it was part of Gold. The Gold games that are free each month. So I've had it on my backlog for the longest time, and finally decided to start the game and drill down on the game, because it's a very short game. You can probably beat the game in 2 to 3 hours on your first run, and then subsequent runs obviously take less time because you already know what to do and where to go and things like that. So this is more, I guess, it's a game that kind of like pays homage to the early Castlevania games in the NES era. It's not so much a Metroidvania game. There's not a whole lot of backtracking. However, the levels do offer different paths that you can take, and the levels encourage replay value to come back later when you unlock more characters or abilities for your main character and explore new rooms and whatnot. But as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the Metroidvania genre. I reviewed almost every 2D Metroid game out there on my channel. I've reviewed high budget games like the Ori games, and also the other end of the spectrum, low budget indie games like Cave Story. So it's a genre that I enjoy a lot, and so I'm glad I played this game, even though, as I mentioned, it's not as hardcore Metroidvania game like other games, because there's not a whole lot of backtracking. But nevertheless, I enjoyed everything about this game. Now, in terms of the story, you follow a character called Zangetsu, I believe. He's on a mission to just slay demons. He's been cursed, and so he's looking to break the curse by slaying demons, and kind of like find the source of the curse, and go back to normal. Now, across your journey, he meets, or he saves characters that had a similar fate. They were captured by demons and whatnot, and that's how you unlock the characters at the end of each of the first 3 levels. There are 3 more characters. Miriam, she's a girl that I believe she's the main character in Ritual of the Night. She can jump high and have like a long range attack with her whip. Then you have, I believe, I forgot his name. There's a wizard guy that he has very powerful magic attacks, but he's very weak. His life bar is like very small. And then Gebel, he is kind of like he can transform into a bat, and he can attack enemies from enemies that are attacking from above. It's very good to use him for that purpose. So there's a lot of variety in terms of the gameplay. But going back to the story, there are multiple endings that you can unlock depending on who you finish the game with. If you decide to partner up with these characters that you unlock at the end of the first 3 levels, and I thought that was a pretty interesting mechanic. In my opinion, the game is more enjoyable if you switch between the characters. They allowed you to explore different areas of the levels. For example, with Miriam, the girl, you can slide under areas that are hard to enter, very small areas, and that gives you access to hidden areas in the game and whatnot. So in terms of graphics, this game obviously has a retro look that aims to pay homage to the early Castlevania games on the NES. So the graphics are amazing in terms of just capturing that old 8-bit retro vibe, and at the same time capturing that Castlevania, dark castles and vampires and dark enemies and whatnot. So the game does a beautiful job of just creating this pixel art that it's very appropriate for this particular game. Soundtrack, the same thing. Very very appropriate soundtrack with retro, sounding songs and sound effects and whatnot. So no complaints on the soundtrack department. And in terms of the gameplay, like I was mentioning, the game is pretty fun because you can switch between the four characters, depending on the situation, depending on the types of enemies. The boss battles were surprisingly pretty good in my opinion. They don't get too old or anything like that. Each boss fight is pretty unique, and they have they have their own attack patterns and whatnot. Now, one thing that got me worried is I'm past my age that I have to prove myself of being a true gamer, I guess. I already suffered through multiple and countless NES and Super Nintendo games that were hard just because they were hard games, and you had limited amount of lives and continues and whatnot. The cool thing about Curse of the Moon is that they have I guess accessible options, casual mode, if you will, where you can have unlimited lives, and you can turn off the knockbacks, when the enemies hit you, which that's something that I used. No shame in that. I just don't have the time to prove myself, to have limited lives, and then, having to restart the game all over again. But it's nice that they give you options, if you do want to put a challenge to yourself. You can turn off casual mode and have a more, I guess, hardcore experience. But even with the infinite lives, I found myself dying a lot. The platforming can be challenging because there is no correction in the once you take off the ground, your character just follows a set pattern, and momentum in terms of your jumping. So that was kind of like an old school, I guess, touch of the game. Somewhat frustrating when it comes to the platforming. If you don't aim pretty well, you're gonna miss the platforms, which is kind of bothersome to me. But again, the good news is the game does have unlimited lives if you want to play the casual mode, and there's a lot of checkpoints that are pretty well scattered through all the levels in the game, and that's how I basically got myself through the game. Enemies can be tough, obviously, especially the enemies that attack from flying enemies. Those are always the bane of all these Metroidvania games. I feel like they're always hard to hit and aim, and their hitboxes are pretty small, and they're just overall annoying enemies. But overall, I was very pleased with the game design. There's a lot of multiple paths that you can take within the levels, and that encourages for replay value, whether you want to play with the characters that you unlock, or there's a kind of like an alternative way of playing the game, where you can, instead of freeing the characters at the end of each level, you can actually kill them and gain some special power-ups for your main character, which I thought it was a very nice mechanic, and I'll probably do another run through doing that method, I guess, just to see how varied the gameplay and the power-ups are. But overall, you have a primary attack. Depending on the character, you may have a short range attack or a long range attack, like with Miriam, because she has the whip. And then you have like a secondary attack that consumes magic. Typically, these are pretty good against the boss battles in the game. So it's a pretty good idea to kind of like save your magic and then use them against the bosses. And there are power-ups that you can pick up to increase the amount of magic that you can carry, to increase your life bar or life meter, and so forth. So the game has a lot of very good qualities, and I think this is a triumph for the Kickstarter model. Sometimes I think games go terribly wrong. They go just south. Kind of like the Mega Man fans were very disappointed with Mighty Number 9. That was a complete train wreck and disaster. But there's hope. I mean, this is a good game that there is hope if things get done well. This is a good example, because I believe most of the Castlevania fans are very pleased with both Curse of the Moon, and I believe there's already a sequel out that came last year, Curse of the Moon 2. And then of course you have Ritual of the Night, which was a success, and it's regarded as a really solid Castlevania or Igavania game, as it's known for the producer and creator, I guess, of the Castlevania games. But this definitely motivated me. I'll definitely keep an eye. I don't think I own Ritual of the Night, so I'll keep an eye for a digital sale and pick it up on, I don't have a preference, maybe the PlayStation or on PC on Steam. So definitely looking forward to playing Ritual of the Night soon. And yeah, Curse of the Moon, a very enjoyable and short game. Make sure you guys try it. It's a short budget game that can be enjoyed if you guys are a fan of the old school retro style of games. So yeah, highly recommend it. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Take it easy.